evening. This meeting will come to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Caldwell Hearing Examiner for January 11th, 2022. I serve in both a decision-making capacity and an advisory capacity for the Mayor and City Council. There are two types of public hearings that this commission conducts. The first is a legislative hearing, whereby we formulate recommendations on certain land use requests. My recommendations are then forwarded on to the City Council who make decisions on legislative matters. The second type of public hearings is quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that the requests are specific to a parcel of land. I'm authorized to make decisions on requests for special use permits, variances, preliminary plat time extensions, and plan unit developments that do not involve the subdivision of land. However, any decision I may make tonight is by no means final. Anyone that believes he or she has been aggrieved by my decision has the right to file an appeal to the City Council. On quasi-judicial requests that involve the subdivision of land, rezones, and annexation, I am authorized to only make recommendations to the City Council who make the decision. The hearing procedures, as required by the Idaho Code, are as follows. 1, the staff will first present a report on the application. 2, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then present the summary of the request. 3, testimony of those in support will be taken, followed by testimony from those in neutral position, followed by those in opposition. I will allow the applicant or applicant's representative's rebuttal. 5, after rebuttal testimony is given, public testimony is closed, and no new or oral written testimony will be allowed unless I elect to reopen the testimony. The time limits on the testimony are as follows. The applicant will receive 10 minutes, those in favor, neutral, opposed, and the rebuttal will all be allowed 5 minutes. I accept oral and written testimony from those in attendance, but only if you sign the sign-up sheet to speak and have been sworn in. When testifying before me, you must come to the podium, state your full name and address, and acknowledge that you've been sworn in. I ask everyone to treat all parties with fairness and respect. I also request that those in attendance please turn off your cell phones. I am a volunteer hearings examiner and receive a small compensation for my efforts. I am charged by law to keep a clear record of proceedings, consider factual testimony, and to stay within the city's and state's rules and regulations. We, the city staff, thank you for your courtesy to us and to others as we move through the process. Now I'll ask those who are going to testify to please stand and you'll be sworn in. Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda, first item is approve the minutes of the November 30th, 2021 meeting, which have been done. In the hearing process, we had 5 items on the original agenda, and 3 of those are being rescheduled. And I'll delineate those now, so if anybody is here to testify on behalf of those cases, we're going to reschedule. So the first item in new business number 3.1, case number SUP 2113, will be continued to the January 25th, 2022 hearing examiner meeting. So if you're here for the Latitude 96 Apartments, SUP 2113, that'll be January 25th at this hearing. The second item that is not going to be heard, item 2, case number SUP 2109, will be continued to the February 15th, 2022 hearing examiner meeting, otherwise known as the Madison Estate Subdivision. So if you're here for that, we'll see you in February. In number 4, action item, case number ANN 2115/PUD 21-5/SUD 2142 will be continued to the January 25th, 2022 hearing examiner meeting. And that's also known as the Solstice subdivision. So anybody's here for those 3 items, I'll urge you to come back and testify when they're scheduled. it will be re-noticed, and sorry for the inconvenience. Moving on to the first case that we will hear tonight, it's under old business, section 2, the action item, case number ANN 2117/SUB 2143, which is continued from the December 14th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, will be heard. And this is briefly a request for an annexation of 9.48 acres, zone low density residential, and concurrently request approval of preliminary plat for Liberty Springs subdivision. With that, I'll turn the time over to the staff to make the presentation on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner, Deb Root, Senior Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard, and I have been sworn. Before you tonight is an application to annex approximately 9.48 acres with a zoning designation of R1, low density residential. The underlying comprehensive plan map designation is also low density residential. This is consistent with the comprehensive plan map designation. The applicant has also concurrently requested approval of a preliminary plat for Liberty Springs subdivision, which is a 26-lot residential development with an average lot size of 9,996 square feet. There's a little bit of a skew in that the existing residential lot is fairly large, but again, all of the lots within the development meet the required dimensional standards of a minimum of 8,000 square foot lots and 9,500 square foot on the corner lots. The development will take access to Lincoln Road and have a stub road along Marmarosa Street, or to that effect, that can travel down south through the existing single-family residential development of Marble Heights. This application is consistent with many goals and policies within the comprehensive plan. As stated, they've provided open space, they've provided water and sewer connections to the existing residential home. There is an overhead power line that has been stated will be removed during development, and a underground service will be provided to the existing residents at that time. This development will not be developed in phases, as it only contains 26 lots, and so it does not meet that criteria for being developed in phases. The one issue that has come up and was discussed between engineering and staff is that there are 2 irrigation facilities on the Lincoln Road frontage of this property. Those facilities must be relocated outside of the right-of-way that's required for dedication there, and they'll be tiled. The engineering group made their case for ensuring that we did not place trees within that irrigation easement, or if they were to be placed there, they needed to be at the extent of the easement for those facilities. And so in discussion with that and a redesign of their site plan, we went with sod will have to be to the curb on the right of way, and then there would be trees or shrubs and bushes against the fence line versus having actual trees where they may interfere with those irrigation facilities. That also was inclusive of not requiring a full 20-foot street landscape buffer along there, along with the additional 30-foot easement for the irrigation facilities. Felt like that the landscaping as proposed and that additional 30-foot of irrigation facility having to be landscaped along that frontage met the intent of the ordinance. And so we're asking that be approved in that the landscape plan 8.81 that the developer shall install the landscaping consistent with that plan as proposed. With that, there is no outstanding concerns or problems that staff noted with this property. I am recommending approval of the annexation with the property zoned as R1 and with a preliminary plat for 26 residential lots in this development. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Root. I don't have a question for you. This is probably for engineering, but the rights of way, looking at page 6, Lincoln Road, have to shift the center line 6 feet south. Could you just elaborate on that?
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Lincoln Road along the north. My name is Rob McDonald. I work at 621 Cleveland Boulevard, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Lincoln Road has some very large steel power poles and power lines along the north side of the road. And it was determined several years ago that as development comes in, because of the location of those power poles on the north side of the road, it was not feasible to require developers on the north side to relocate those Idaho power facilities. And so the determination at that time was if the road was shifted 6 feet south, the center line, that all the improvements on the north side could be completed to the typical width without interfering with the power poles, and that necessitates then the offset to the south, 6 feet.
And, does that mean that you're physically going to move the road, or is this for the calculation of the dedicated right-of-way for this project?
What it means is that as the road is widened out, it's widened out a little bit further by 6 feet on the south side of the road, further than on the north side. And so what essentially is happening is as the road is widened out, the center line of the road is shifting 6 feet from the existing center line.
Okay, then just apply to the frontage in this case. Any physical changes to the road. They say in subsequent cases that same right away be carried on. I mean, how far is that? How far is it the whole length of this, or what are we talking about?
So the offset is the entire length of Lincoln Road from about this location where it comes off the hill, is my recollection, all the way, I believe, to past KCID, approaching Middleton Road.
Okay.
And so it is the entire corridor that has this offset. And that doesn't mean all the frontage improvements are still included as part of development. It's just simply offsetting the center line of the road south 6 feet.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to have the applicant, Mr. Jorgensen, make the presentation, please. I will note at this time we have an exhibit be shown here. The applicant's going to make that a colors exhibit 1-8 and 2117.
Good evening, Mr. Hearing Examiner. For the record, Dave Jorgensen, I have been sworn in. And
go ahead. Good to see you.
My address is 14254 West Batzenberg Drive, Boise, Idaho.
Thank you.
And I'm here representing the applicant, part of the development team. Also here with me is, two members of our engineering team, and if they need to address any questions that I cannot, they are available for questions, so. Appreciate the presentation given by staff. We have had quite a bit of discussion through this process, and pleased to get to this point in the process. I'll give a short presentation and then answer any questions you have. First of all, I'll introduce the site. Secondly, I'll talk about some application details and a subdivision summary, and then go over just a couple of items in the staff report. As Ms. Root had said, it's approximately 9.5 by 9.48 acres. It's located on the south side of Lincoln Road, and it's located in the city of Caldwell's area of impact. It's contiguous to city limits, actually on the west side, the south side, and on the east side. Coincidentally, the east side was approved not too long ago, a little less than about a year ago, a subdivision with similar zoning but higher density than this project is when they went through the PUD. So we're in the comprehensive plan identified as low density, and as mentioned, we have an application for annexation zoning and a preliminary plat. With regard to annexation zoning, we comply with the comprehensive plan and future land use for this area, as the city does a great job of considering how they want future development to be progressed through the future. We've chosen to take the path of let's follow the plan. We're not getting too cute or too creative, not all variances here, just trying to follow the plan. So we asked for an R1 residential zone, which is consistent with the low-density residential in the comprehensive plan. Our requested density is less than the allowed density. We're asking for about 2.74 dwelling units per acre, which is less than the 3 dwelling units per acre in the comp plan. As mentioned, there's 26 total residential units, one of which is the existing home, and then 25 new homes will be added to this development area. Again, less than the allowed density of 3.0. They will all be single-family detached homes, built all in one phase. And it's a well-thought-out design. We put a little thought into what we can do here and what we can't do, and it's really quite constrained. There's not a stub road coming in from the east or the west, but we are tying into what is given to us, being the stub road to the south and a new access to the north off Lincoln. But we're not just jamming a straight road straight through. We know that might be high-speed cut-through traffic, so it's kind of a circuitous route for traffic calming purposes, too. We are preserving the existing home. There'll be quality amenities with a pathway and a children's play area, a little tot lot inside. With the pathways, we think they'll actually give a nice little small little walking pathway as you walk through the pathway and then around the sidewalks across the front of those homes and do a complete loop. So we find this to be a usable open space even with the small confined area that this is. Here's just a quick sample of some of the homes that are considered. These are not guarantees. They will all be in concept. These are homes that some of the builders that we've worked with, these are actual homes that they have built in the Treasure Valley. They'll be always, again, single-family detached homes. We have a variety of homes or quality homes with nice amenities and quality architecture. So with regard to the staff report, as mentioned at the start of the meeting here, it was originally scheduled for December 14th, but there were some questions or concerns raised by staff. We pulled back and we've tried to address all of those comments and concerns from staff. We revised the site plan to meet all of their concerns. The staff issued a revised staff report, which you have in front of you today, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I would like to discuss just one item, that is condition number 15.4. This addresses specifically what Ms. Root identified, and that's this landscape frontage along Lincoln. In the packet, you'll see a revised landscape plan, which is the new plan which we're proposing. We want to make sure we're avoiding any conflicts with the irrigation facilities. Obviously, don't want any trees over the top of pipelines. What's interesting, though, is the east side is a facility that's the A drain that's controlled by the city of Caldwell. The western frontage is not. It's the Canyon Hill Lateral 500, I believe, controlled by Pine Irrigation District. So there's two different irrigation districts or groups we're reporting to and following different guidance there. And so we have two different guidances as far as landscaping requirements in those two easement areas. The landscape plan you had before you, we believe, complies with both. So on the east side, we did put some trees in as much as we could, but right on the southern border to avoid the conflicts as expressed by the city. On the western side, the irrigation district doesn't want any trees at all, but we have more shrubs and more things planted there. But you might notice in our color plan, and I'm going to skip to it here and then come right back. You'll notice in our color plan, we have a little bit wider landscape frontage than typical once you come to that corridor. We planted more trees than typical. We plan on doing a few more than what's even shown there to make sure we try to have it still a nice looking entrance, not only for the frontage of Lincoln, but also as you come into the development. the goal is not to have less landscaping, but try to deal with the requirements of the irrigation district facilities and still meet the requirements. And what we want to have is a nice looking entrance into the subdivision. So specific to condition 15.4 addresses, and it calls out a 20-foot common lot, basically. And we want to clarify that's not in addition to the 30 feet we're already providing for that facility. And I think that's correct, but I defer to staff for clarifications to that. Because we think this is a little bit better approach having that there, but nonetheless, that is what we're showing. And that is the exhibit specific that's been recommended for approval here is the plan we're showing you. With that in mind, I'll step back here and say, we're excited to bring this quality development to the city of Caldwell. This is contiguous to the city limits. We're surrounded on 3 sides, and it complies with the comprehensive plan. We request your approval tonight. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Yorkson. I do have a question, and we'll also direct that to staff, but the exhibit that you referred to about your fine landscape plan, is that part of the packet that I reviewed, or is there a new exhibit here?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, there's not a new exhibit. It is part of the packet. Okay. And if I could clarify, it's A3 is what's shown as the concept home design, but also, if you could help me, I think it's A3-1, if I'm not mistaken, or is it A81?
It's actually A8.1.
Thank you.
Is the landscape plan that, the city engineering department and staff had discussed and were okay with. I want to clarify that the 20-foot landscape buffer would have been required in addition to the 30-foot. By code, it's required in addition to, so outside of that irrigation easement and outside of the right-of-way. But staff felt like that the 30 feet of landscaped irrigation cover would meet the intent of what that landscape buffer requires.
Okay, Ms. Rivera here, the condition 15-4 is reflective of that, and that was the applicant's question on that. Does that need to be revised anyway?
Actually, that condition probably should be revised for clarity, and it could say a minimum 20-foot wide street landscape buffer along Lincoln Street road frontage is required by code or as amended by staff review.
Okay.
The developer shall install landscaping in accordance with the landscape plan A8.1.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, if I could just add, part of that is reflected in the last sentence in 15.5. If that needs to help you out there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And Mr. Yorkson, I'd like to ask this question. There is one of the conditions of approval is there'll be a development agreement, and you're okay with the development agreement proceeding?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, yes, we are agreeing with all of these conditions, and if it's in the form of a development agreement, yes, we agree with that as well.
Okay.
And I appreciate the explanation given by staff with regard to the additional right-of-way we're giving to help with the offsets for Lincoln Road, and we support that too.
Okay, and now, on that issue, what is the number? How many feet are we actually talking about from, I guess, the center line of the right-of-way?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I defer to staff, but my understanding is additional 6 feet that we are dedicating to the city.
Okay. I mean, the total width of the landscaping on the frontage, it was the number I was looking for.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I might look to my engineer, but I think our frontage is around, let me look at my plan real quick here. Oh, wrong page.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, if I may.
Yes.
The engineering report requires that 46 feet of right-of-way be dedicated, so a portion of that's currently in roadway. That frontage must be landscaped clear to the curb or to the shoulder of the thing until such time as that's widened or whatever. The applicant's responsible for landscaping to the roadway, basically. So inclusive of the right-of-way that is not roadway. And then they'll also have, so they have that probably, 25 feet, because 25 foot is what consistent with what the current, prescriptive right-of-way would be on there. And then, so they'll have the 30 feet plus whatever additional right-of-way has to be, landscaped, to curb, basically.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I
Yes.
think our frontage is close to 330 feet, that's not an exact number. It gives you an idea of how wide our frontage is.
Thank you, Ms. Yurgensen. I have no further questions for you. Did you have a member of your team that wanted to make a further presentation?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, we do not. We're here to answer any questions you might have and appreciate your support tonight.
Well, thank you very much. With that, we'll go on to the next person to sign up, Angie Coelho.
I'm part of the team.
Okay, so you want to skip that, all right. The next person to sign is Cameron Shipley.
I was here to answer any questions on behalf of engineering for Mason Associates.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have questions, and so if you don't wish to testify, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Shippey. Those who wish to testify in the neutral column, Mr. Norman Rudson. Yes, would you like to testify, sir? Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to express my concern. I have spoken to both planning.
Mr. Rudson, please state your name and address, and if you've been
I'm
sworn
sorry,
in,
802 Suncrest, Caldwell, 82605. My property adjoins this subdivision on the west.
You have been sworn in.
Yes, you have been sworn in.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity to express my concern. I've spoken to both the planning and engineering and attended the community hearing. And as owner of the land to the west adjacent to this property, I have a concern that I hope that you would consider. The owner expressed to me that he has no part in the development, but he had no objection to my proposal. And I spoke to a representative of the developer, but I didn't receive a phone call from them to this point. My concern is our property will be, of course, depreciated because of we're have our home sites on the bluff to the west, and these homes below us, of course, will depreciate that view, but we understand that this is inevitable, part of living in a growing, thriving community. Development's going to happen, so we have to do the best we can to work with it. But it does cause us to rethink the use of our land adjacent to this. And one of our considerations would be to eventually divide our pasture land into possibly 3 sites, which is permissible already, as that's been established before by the city council. We would not have access to sewer under the present situation. I think it's easily resolvable. With the extension of a small sewer line, the length of one lot, that would give us a sewer access to the pasture land for eventual development. It would, give us relief from the, deterioration of the value and aesthetics of our property. The development of the subdivision, would not allow any sewer connection because of Lincoln being at such a higher elevation than, the land which is, in this subdivision. So, once this is done, then that would be a final impossibility for us to have access to sewer. So, my request is consideration for a, extension of the sewer just the length of one lot, to our property line, which would relieve our concern for the things that we have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rootson. The matter before us, is strictly for the property under question. The nature of the extension of the sewer is a function of development. And, the only way I could clearly see that is if you were to develop, coincidentally, and, that would afford the opportunity for the city perhaps, make the installation simultaneous, but you can't look outside of this property for, that kind of thing unless they're, pre-existing condition or you chose to develop. So it's really outside of the purview of this particular application, to approve that request. On the other hand, there are possibilities of a private contract between parties, that would involve the city as well. So, that we have no, authority to request the applicant that kind of extension. But I do thank you for your testimony.
What would be my procedure then?
Would you mind stepping up to the mic, please?
What would be my procedure then to, pursue this?
Well, there's two paths, the agreement, the neighborly agreement between parties, where we could come to some sort of agreement, with the development and developers, talking with, or presenting the application of this form for development, that would coincidentally be, serviced by the city, and that would abnegate the need to do this twice, to have one installation serve both properties. That we'd have to initiate some kind of application for development to do that. But I would direct you to the engineering staff for further questions about that, but it's outside of the purview of what we can do here tonight.
So I guess I still don't quite understand what my next procedure would be. Would my proposal be to the city engineering or to the developer?
Well, there's two paths, but it's going to involve the parties the same. But I guess the bottom line here is you have to speak with the city and with the developers to work that out. There's nothing that we can do at this hearing tonight.
Mr. Herring,
Yes.
I would be happy to meet with the gentleman, at another time, maybe, during the day, and we can talk about what you're looking at. There's a city project to extend sewer through that area, and there may be a way that, a partnership could be struck. So I would be happy to meet with you at some point.
So that would still be available even if this is approved tonight?
Yes, potentially, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Rootson. The next person to testify in opposition, Ramey Boutros. Did I get that? I'm sorry. Did I get that right?
I am Ramsey Boutros.
Oh, okay.
My address is 1116 Winella Drive in Caldwell, 83605. I have been sworn in.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I'm speaking today in favor of rational growth and adequate planning to ensure that the results of growth are tolerable by all. Each time a smaller subdivision like the one before you now is reviewed and approval is recommended, some traffic is added, and there is an increased need for infrastructure like more police, fire, etc. But because these are small developments under 100 housing units, they're allowed to be built without considering the cumulative effects they cause. Yes, individually, one small development is not a showstopper, but cumulatively, they cause great harm. Lincoln Road and Marble Front Road present a real traffic problem. The land just east of Caldwell along both roads is flat and makes for easy development, but with no easy solution to the increased traffic that developments bring. There are minor side streets between Lincoln Road and Marble Front Road, but they are either residential, like Georgia, or so far east, like Mason and KCID, that they will not relieve traffic congestion at the west end in Caldwell. There is a current problem at the western end that will get much worse, where Lincoln Road feeds south to Marble Front, and all traffic ends up at Marble Front Road and Illinois Avenue. That intersection is already congested at certain times of day. Large truck traffic that must exit the Maverick onto Marble Front and traffic from the Mosaics and Van Buren schools adds to this now. As you should already know, Canyon County has a plan for the eastern end of Lincoln at Middleton, but that is 3 miles from the area we are concerned about. Many drivers will find themselves going west on Lincoln and Marble Front to get to the highway interchange at Illinois, or to take the 10th Avenue Bridge to the boulevard. It's time to stop piecemeal approval of development along these roads. We need to ensure that there is a plan to accommodate all the traffic that will be funneled along these roads in the city of Caldwell and include the source of funding for making those traffic improvements. We need to ensure that there is a plan for how the city will provide police, fire, and emergency services to all the residents of Caldwell when the population increases due to these new developments. So I had the opportunity to speak briefly with the city engineer before this meeting, and he has agreed to meet with me to talk about the particular situation at the intersection of Marble Front and Illinois and what the city might be able to do. What we need right away is a traffic impact study for that intersection. It's already a problem, and we're only going to be making it worse. I request that no approval or no recommendation for approval be made until a traffic study can be done and the city has the confidence that they're not going to create a terrible traffic problem at that particular intersection. Thank you. If you have any questions or comments.
I have no questions, but thank you. It's a very well thought out statement, and I think that the staff will try to figure out what is possible. The interesting point is that the cumulative effect of the smaller developments have amassed to their own problem as opposed to the larger ones that are required to do the TIS. And I guess all we can say is that's the function of long-range planning and implementing those plans. But I do thank you for your observations, and they seem to be spot on.
Thank you.
With that, Nicole Highland, please, would you testify?
I am Nicole Highland, 513 Danby Avenue. Can we actually put the plat back up, or the original image that we had?
You've been sworn.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I've been sworn. It was in my notes, I forgot it. But I want to put the main image of the city, whatever you had for the city lot originally. Yes. Just be easier if I can see it. Well, that's beautiful too, but.
I'm looking at something different too.
So I think this is the developer's PowerPoint. There we go. traffic and the infrastructure and all that, but Ramsey did such a better job that I'm gonna say ditto everything to that. I do wanna start with the positive. I love the concept of leaving it on R1, because we are struggling. If you look at this image here, right to the east, my subdivision is right there where they're wanting to build and connect to the road for this development for Liberty Springs. So if you go to the direct east where that road is, in our subdivision there, they are building multiplex units there. And they're connecting that road as well to use our subdivision that only has 36 homes in it, no outlet other than to Marble Front. So if you're adding another subdivision of Liberty Springs, and they're gonna use that back road, you're now adding, multiplying traffic in our neighborhood that's basically like, it's a cul-de-sac there, but, I mean, you're now adding the multiplex, and then now you're adding the 26 homes, and everyone will come out to Marble Front using our road. And the reason is because, like Ramsey said, if you go down Lincoln, you have to go all the way Lincoln, come down by the church, and come back around to Marble Front by the Maverick. That is congested. So when the senior planner had said tonight that they were planning to develop into our road there, that's concerning, simply because we already have all that traffic. It's not just multiplexes that are being built to the east there. It's they're doing 100 homes plus the multiplexes all on that lot. I mean, it's a high-density build. And then I believe if you go up, like Ramsey said, 3 miles up, there is also a lot of development that's already starting or breaking ground on. So, or I'm sorry, that has been approved. So my concern is, like I said, everything Ramsey said, but using that road, if there is a way we can block that one off, we couldn't do it in the, with the big development coming into the east because they were using our road as part of their roundabout. And so that wasn't a feasible option. But if there's some way we can block that to keep that traffic from coming, it is, like I said, we have 36 homes in ours. If there's 26, there's one outlet would be, I mean, if we're dealing with one outlet with 36 homes, one outlet would be fine for them for 26 homes. So is there any way that we could put a gate up or a road closure sign? I mean, I'm trying everything here because my neighbors, they're just, they love the fact that it's an R1 and not the R3. So we're happy with it, but we're concerned about that road being used and integrated into our little one outlet area, because now we're putting on so much traffic. So I do agree with the traffic study as well, simply because of that as well. In the last development I had said, the schools are becoming more crowded. I would say that this just be halted and not annexed until we get some kind of traffic study with the consideration of all the new development, specifically to the east there, direct east. Because you're adding 26 onto all of this other major development going on that empty lot. So there is a lot going on, and traffic studies are great, but I think we need to integrate traffic studies for all the development in that whole square there. I don't know what they're called, sorry. So I would say if we could hold off on the annexation for the simple fact that we need more information, we need to see if there's something we can do about closing that off directly, if the developer would be okay with closing that off. I do love the name of the subdivision. Liberty Springs is awesome. And then, let's see, yeah, that's gonna be my biggest issue, is using our subdivision as an outlet, so. Hey, answer questions.
Thank you. Well, I don't have a question for you, but I would like to, have that discussion with the engineering. One point, we reviewed the subdivision to the east. Rob, was there a traffic study? There was a traffic study for that one?
Yes, I believe so. That one came through a while back, and so I don't recall the details of it, but I believe there was a traffic impact study done.
I believe Penelope did say that she had one, and they were going to do a second one for some reason, I can't remember. So I don't know if that ever got completed or not, but the first one was done.
Okay, my assumption is that would shed some light on the issue that you bring up. As far as closure, in the planning, we have really the opposite idea of trying to disperse traffic through a network and through a system, and it makes, all parts of the system work better. I can't recall a case where we've had a closure between subdivisions of that nature that really isn't in the way the planner's mind thinks. It may not seem intuitive, but we're trying to spread it out rather than concentrate the traffic that is. But I appreciate your comments, and the staff will take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian Allen, Mr. Allen, like to testify?
Yes, my name is Brian Allen, 211 North Alaska in Caldwell. I've been sworn in.
Thank you.
I agree with Ramsey and Nicole, what they brought up. I have just a couple of items. I had a question on the widening of Lincoln, the 6 foot over, from KCID to, I don't know where it's supposed to end, but is that development property that they are volunteering to widen Lincoln? And also, I really don't think the city of Caldwell realizes how many developments are going on in Caldwell, within Caldwell. All the subdivisions, all the building, all the ones that have been approved. I don't believe there's a master plan that has been developed to show everybody what's being built and what the consequences of fire, police, utilities, traffic. I don't think they know what's going on. I think they should at least but pare down the approval of some of the subdivisions going on now until they have a master plan on what's being developed in Caldwell and what the effects are for the people already established in Caldwell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a note on that, the planning process is through the comprehensive plan, and that was approved, I think, just a year and a half ago, the most recent comprehensive plan, which presumably addresses those issues. And it is a living document, can be amended, and that's something that I would urge you to take up with the planning department if there are amendments to the comprehensive plan that would further your cause, which I think is just, and I'm not sure that we all understand how the geometric expansion of growth and development occurs, and we're seeing that now. This is one of the hottest growth areas in the United States right now by all measure. The census and so forth have shown that the Treasure Valley is what I call the hot spot, and we've seen that occur in Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Denver, Portland, Seattle, and now it's our turn, I suppose, for better or worse. And so I guess we just have to plan for that occasion because the dynamics have changed. But I appreciate your comments, and I have no further questions of staff. With that, I would like to close the hearing and move to the consideration phase. Case before us, ANN 2117, the annexation is, considered, separately, Mr. Knapp?
Mr. Hearing Examiner. He didn't do a rebuttal for the, applicant.
I'm sorry, terribly sorry about that. I'll reopen the testimony for rebuttal from the applicant. If you'd like to, take 5 minutes for rebuttal, please.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, for the record, Dave Jorgensen, already been sworn in. I do not have any further comment. I heard lots of good discussion, but I would just emphasize and appreciate the discussion that's been had regarding comprehensive plans. The city has put forth significant effort, and we support comprehensive planning. Planning is just that. It helps with the future planning for the staff, for the engineering departments, and for police and fire and schools, and everyone who depends upon comprehensive plans. And so we just would emphasize that this application complies 100% to the comprehensive plan. With that, I don't have any further comments to make, except I look forward to continuing discussions with some of the neighbors that are here. We appreciate the support for the neighborhood name. Thank you, you're welcome. There were some concerns about transitions and things. We met at the neighborhood meeting, I believe. I think you were there. Maybe you weren't. Someone who looked kind of like you was there on your street. Anyway, we recognize that after this whole process is through the application process, we're still not done working with neighbors. That's the approach I take, and so we will continue to do that. With that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. I have no further questions.
Thank you again.
And with that, I will close the hearing. Testimony. There are 2 applications. The annexation is a separate action from the preliminary plat. So we have the annexation application ANN 21-17, and reading from page 10 of the staff report, we have the findings of facts for the annexations as follows. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report's public testimony and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. Item 7, conclusions of law for the annexation. The Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the Caldwell City Council that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements are met. The hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances. Item 8, the recommendation for annexation. Based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby recommends to the mayor and city council that case number ANN 21-17 request to annex 9.48 acres, more or less within R1 low-density residential zoning designation for the property R35228 at 2902 Lincoln Road, Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with conditions of approval in Section 9. And Section 9 states 2 conditions of approval, and others might be reserved for the city council. And the 9.2 and 9.3 are part of this recommendation. And going on to the preliminary plat, we've had testimony on that. And looking at page 12 of the staff report, we have section 11, findings of facts for the preliminary plat, which is SUB 21-43. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. The conclusions of law for the preliminary plat is as follows. The hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the city council, Caldwell City Council, will be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met. The hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances. The recommendation for preliminary plat is as follows. Based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby recommends to the mayor and city council the case number SUB 2143, the request for preliminary plat approval of Liberty Springs subdivision, a 26 residential lot development on parcel R35228, 9.48 acres more or less in Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with conditions of approval below. And those conditions of approval were stated in the staff report, starting on page 12, with condition 15.1, page 13 with conditions 15.12, with an amendment to condition 15.4, which I'll try to add lib here. Install a minimum 20-foot wide street landscape buffer along the Lincoln Street road frontage. The buffer shall comply with city landscape requirements, section 10708, as amended by staff and revised by the developer and as shown in Exhibit A8.1. And ask the staff if that covers the amendment that we discussed.
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I kind of have it written out here, so we'll eloquently state that they need to comply with Exhibit A 8.1.
Thank you very much. With that, I conclude this hearing and make those recommendations to council. Thank you very much for your participation. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Hearing Examiner,
Yes.
just for point of clarification, did you do the recommendation for both the annexation and for the preliminary plat?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
we did two recommendations.
The director didn't, or questioned whether or not it did, so we just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda tonight is case number SUP-21-08, request by Steve White for a special use permit for Midway Townhomes. And with that, I would ask the staff to make their presentation on this, please.
On this hearing, examiner Jerome Knapp, 21 Cuban Boulevard, Caldwell, and I'm the land director, and I've been sworn in. As mentioned, this is case number SUP 2108. A request by Steve White for a special use permit to construct a multifamily housing development called Midway Townhomes. The proposal is 11 fourplexes or 44 units on 3.4 acres in the C3 service commercial zone. Property is located on Midway Road, approximately 200 feet southwest of the intersection of Caldwell Boulevard and Midway Road here in Caldwell. Caldwell Comprehensive Plan designates this area as commercial service. In 2021, December, the council approved a change in the zoning ordinance which eliminated the opportunity to build multifamily in commercial zones. But this application was filed way before this new ordinance went into place. So I'll put that on the record. As mentioned, the property is zoned C3 surrounded by the following land uses. North, we have service commercial, car rental service. South is R1, single family residential. East is C3, service commercial, and the west is R1, single family residential. The property is located on the frontage of Midway Road, which is a minor collector. On January 1st, 2022, the engineering department provided a number of requirements based upon this application, and those are identified in section 2.5 of the staff report. At 2.6, the planning department identified the following requirements. Number one, lighting required. Since the proposed development will be under one ownership, the applicant will not have to plat this parcel. Parking requirements, 1.5 parking spaces per unit, 44 units is 66 parking spaces. The applicant is proposing 67. Clustering postal locations. U.S. Postal Service does not deliver door-to-door in new developments. The site plan currently doesn't show location for cluster postal location. So that's something that we will have to add to this project. 10% qualifying open space. The original proposal showed 2,762 square feet of qualifying open space. Staff had a conversation with the applicant by providing new open space in lot 6 and a micro pathway around the property. If that's done, they would have approximately 11,400 square feet of qualifying open space where they would comply. Regarding refuse waste, there are 2 containers for 44 units. Street landscaping buffers along Midway, 15 feet, which complies with the ordinance. Community amenities proposed. At the time, the applicant did not have any. But now, with the removal of lot 6 as a buildable lot, you would use that portion as part of their amenities. The turnaround for the fire department will be used for a basketball court. It's not in use, which we do most of the time. Applicant proposes a bocce ball court on the site, which happens to be inside the buffer, the landscaping buffer. So they would have to relocate that. And then the other amenity is the micro pathway around the project. The Moses drain is along the southern border of the property. If the applicant wants to put the micro pathway within that area, they would have to get approval from the Moses Irrigation District. The applicant's provided bicycle parking. Applicant meets all setbacks. And 2.7 fire department requirements. They provided a fire turnaround to service the driveway parking lot. Has a minimum requirement 26 feet. Originally it was 24. They've modified that requirement to 26. And the site plan shows 2 fire hydrants on the site. Regarding the background of this development. The applicant is proposing what one calls a pinwheel development. These are fourplexes, but developed in a pinwheel as a cross with 4 separate structures, 4 separate entrances. Each one has a fenced patio. Within this R3 zoning classification, code allows up to 25 dwelling units per acre. And with the PUD, one will be able to go up to 35 units per acre. The applicant's application has less than that number, but I can't see where I put. Oh, 12.9 units per acre is what's being proposed. So in regards to staff's recommendation, and one thing too is that the way the project is designed and where it's located between a commercial or industrial type use to north, to a multifamily in the center, and then fades back to a single family residential area. Under plain terms, that's a transition, and that's usually what we like to see development occur. As mentioned, the proposed development provides a transition from commercial single family, which comes and meets the goals of policy 3.2 of the commercial plan. Every goal 3, policy 3.2. The applicants met the landscaping and open space requirements. As mentioned, applicant has stated that he would eliminate building 6 on the site plan. I'll need to bring those to you as an exhibit in a second. The applicant has mentioned to me that on the space where the building 6 is located, he would provide a gazebo and other amenities. Based upon this testimony, applicant recommends unanimous approval of this application. And Mr. Unit Examiner, I'll bring you what you to bring this to you.
Thank you.
This will be the revised site plan.
That, indicated that was received on, the 7th, January 7th. Thank you. Entered the new site plan for the record, dated January 7th, 2022, and, we'll call it Exhibit, 1, SUP 2108. Page of the map now, concerning this exhibit, I'm looking at there are figures here that I think you stated, the recalculation, for the open space, is noted, there's a note here, 11,440 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the number I have is 11,400, so we're somewhere between there. Building lot number 6 has 5,900 square feet. When you include the building lot and the turnaround from the fire department.
Okay, and, the micropath?
That's approximately 5,500.
Okay, so, then we've got the requirement for the 10%.
Yes.
With that number, okay. Did you see any other alteration to the plan, with the exception we discussed, the elimination of lot 6? Is it the same plan of record going into, distribution in the staff report?
Yes, and those are only estimates based upon the use of scale. There's no number of right turns in the pathway, so the applicant would have to provide us a final calculation of the open space. As I remember, the number's somewhere about 10,600 square feet required. 10,429 square feet is required for this development.
And, Mr. Mapp, the, amenities requirements, have been addressed. We have a basketball court, top lot, you said a bocce ball, site, and there are perhaps other amenities. Have they met that requirement, Mr. Mapp?
They haven't given me a final description of all the amenities. The ones that I mentioned, which include the gazebo, are the ones we talked about in our meeting last Thursday and Friday. It'll be January 7th and January 8th.
Okay, and, they're reflected on this exhibit that you've given me. The amenities are cited on this exhibit.
Is the gazebo on that site plan? I don't remember it being on that site plan.
I'm not sure I'm seeing that.
It'll be on building 6.
Yeah, the 6 is shown as a top lot space, an open space. And I'm getting the top lot, the basketball court, the micro path.
Bocce ball court, gazebo, 5-foot wide, micro walking path, basketball courts, and it's a tot lot. But generally that would be
Okay.
details, and it also will be in the development agreement.
And so, we're satisfied with those two requirements, the open space and amenities have been satisfied with this new exhibit?
Yes, and let's see.
Okay,
There's something
thank you
else.
very much. Looking at this, I'd like to have a little discussion about, the Moses Drain on, I guess it's sort of the southwest side of that. Is there any part of this plan that addresses the Moses Drain or needs to be addressed?
The site plan shows the location of Moses Drain. Showed on the screen. So, this is southwest. Moses drains, so their property line looks as if it provides enough room for a 5-foot micro pathway on that border. As mentioned in the staff report, if the applicant chooses to move that pathway into Moses Drain, it would have to get a license agreement between the irrigation company and the applicant. So he has a choice there.
And, is that a condition of approval, Mr. Knapp?
Yes, and that's just giving him the option to do one or the other, still comply to the open space. There's no major pathway that goes along the Moses Drain.
Okay.
So he's not trying to encroach in the drain to acquire any type of open space. It's totally separate from his application.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions on that. Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I'd like to move to the applicant. Would you like to make your presentation, please?
Mr. Hearing's examiner, my name is Steve White. I live at 2416 South Meyer Street in Nampa, and I have been sworn in. And Mr. Knapp and I have had a couple meetings and have gone over the site plan in quite detail. I agree and comply with all of his recommendations, will comply with all of his recommendations. And we have built several of these projects throughout the valley. The plan, I designed the plan, I'm sort of proud of it. I designed it in '94. It's been labeled as the pinwheel design, and built about 500 of them throughout the valley. And they work very, very well in this type of a situation to work as a buffer zone. In fact, I think it was the city of Boise, maybe when Jerome was there, that they came up with the name buffer zone. But it's worked very well as a buffer zone between commercial and residential. And we did reduce from what we originally had submitted for was 11 fourplexes down to 10 fourplexes, coming up with the additional space of open space, adding the micropath, of course the top lot, the bocce ball court, the basketball court, which we have done a lot in the past where they have the emergency turnaround, and that's only used for an emergency, usually for a fire truck or something like that. So being able to use it for a basketball court makes a lot of sense because it's not used for anything else. I would if Jerome wants me to, I'll be more than happy to work with him on a development agreement. I'm sure he's done hundreds of them, he probably doesn't need my help. But, we did have our neighborhood meeting. We didn't have anyone at the meeting that was against the project. We did have a roundtable. That was in the days of, I'll say, virtual, roundtables. And then, I have submitted a complete package with the plat, the landscaping, the engineering, and the building plans, that I can think of. I think we've complied with everything that the city of Caldwell would want. We have done, I think there's some pictures, of some of our buildings that we have built in Caldwell, and, Tampa, Boise, Meridian, all of those, but, I do have some pictures of, I guess we can turn my head, they got on the, there they are. Some of the buildings that we built, those happen to be in, Caldwell, over off of, Ustick, between, right close to 10th and Ustick. I think that's about everything that I could dwell on right now. If you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. White. Yeah, I would like to continue this discussion I was having with, Director Knapp. We have this exhibit I've termed, 1-SUP-2108, revised site plan, where we eliminated the structure on, lot 6. It's still kind of a draft format. I'm gonna request that you have a more complete and finished drawing,
I do have one. I have it electronically. An engineer sent it over to me yesterday.
Okay.
When I met with Jerome, I did that map myself with whiteout, scale, pencil. But, I do have an engineered one. I can give it to Jerome. I do have an electronic copy of it.
I'd like a copy of that if you have one available, please. This is the basis for what decision we might make here. And,
It's similar to that, it's just cleaner.
and then, just for the recording, would you step back to the microphone, please? And, I'll call this Exhibit 2-SUP-2108. And, I simply can't read the small. You also noted the amenities and the calculations of the open space. Is that on here as well?
That's not on that small page. It's on the larger one that's on the, electronic copy that I'll be sending over to Jerome.
Okay, I'll make that a condition of approval. It's crucial to have this in front of this hearing board, so that, you know, we're very clear on the decision. And then, could you just discuss for me the interface, with the Moses drain, and what's the approach to that, or are there some, safety concerns there?
Originally, we were using, I'll say the embankment of the Moses drain, the right-of-way of the Moses drain, as part of our open space. That's why we thought we could put in the 11th building, but when we found out that we couldn't use, through discussion, the, Moses drain right-of-way or whatever, that's when we eliminated any type of encroachment on the Moses drain and kept all of the amenities on our own property, including the micropath.
Okay, was there a discussion with the irrigation company about, access to that, or fencing, or anything of that nature?
No, I have not discussed anything with the irrigation district. We plan on putting a 6-foot vinyl fence around the entire property and then landscape buffering on, Midway. So it would be, our property would be fenced off from the Moses drain right of way anyway for aesthetic looks and, safety for the children, so they don't climb up over and go swimming.
And Mr. White, is the micro path inside of that fence?
That's correct.
Thank you, that's what I said, getting at. I have no further questions, I'm sure they'll come up, but, we'll, allow your rebuttal and if there are any outstanding issues, I appreciate your testimony, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have the sign-up sheet, is it, Teresa Solis? Y'all wish to testify?
No, I was just here.
Was that you?
No, not Teresa Solis.
Okay.
It would have been in the May.
Oh, okay, great. Well, and this map, so I have this kind of second version of this document gave me.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, we may have a person on Zoom that could not have signed up that way that
Okay,
signed in, so we better check with her.
please, yeah, I'll leave that to you.
Still on there? Okay, then never mind.
Okay. Well, we're always welcoming the Zoom testimony as well.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, the person in the audience.
Pardon me? No, she does not wish to testify.
Oh, okay.
So I have, Mr. Mapp, I have these two exhibits, and, I'm going to ask that we get a definitive final version of this,
I have not seen the one he just gave you. I have not seen that one.
Right, so I would like to have, definitive version as, part of this proposal, or part of the, conditions of approval. It's just a cleaned up version of the larger sheet. Thank you. So, just to clarify, Mr. Mapp, it looks like we've accomplished the compliance with the open space requirements and the amenities requirements. And,
Yes, it would seem that way.
we're good to go on that. All right, with that, I will close the public hearing and the testimony phase and go to the consideration. And looking at page 11 of the staff report, we have as follows for case SUP-2108, the Midway Townhomes. The findings of facts, section 6 are as follows. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. I'm sorry, let's back up. Mr. White, did you have a rebuttal for anything?
Steve White, Nampa, Idaho. No, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I don't have anything to rebut unless you have more questions for me.
No, thank you very much, and with that, I will close the hearing. And back to the findings of facts for SUP-2108 Midway Townhomes. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. The codes used is conditionally permitted by the terms of the ordinance and is subject to conditions of approval. Section 7, inclusive of law.
I'm sorry,
Oh, Mr. Mayor? Yes.
you forgot the comprehensive plan analysis.
Pardon?
You forgot the comprehensive plan analysis. You went straight to the findings of fact. 5.1.
Thank you very much. I'll take that out. Looking at the comprehensive plan analysis for, SUP-2108, section 5 as follows. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the comprehensive plan components that are listed below. And there are, under section, 5.1, there are goals that are found on page 10 and 13, which I'll leave for reference in the staff report. We stated the findings of facts, including now the comprehensive plan analysis, and under item 7, we'll address conclusions of law. The Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case in order that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, and the hearing was conducted within the guidelines of applicable Idaho code and city ordinances. Item 8.7, the order of decision based on findings of fact. This is section 8. Based on the findings of facts, conclusion of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby orders the case number SUP-21-08, request by Steve White for a special use permit to construct a multifamily housing development, Midway Townhomes, consisting of 10 fourplex buildings or 40 units on a 3.4 acres in a C3 service commercial zone is approved with the following conditions of approval. And on page 11 of the staff report, we have conditions at 8.2 through 8.12. As noted in the motion, the original application was for 11 units. That is now stated as 10 units, and according to the site plan exhibit 1-SUP-21-08, to meet the requirements of the open space and the amenities. And we will, with that, strike condition 8.3, which reads, remove building 6 to increase the amount of open space on the property. That has been addressed with the current exhibit submitted this evening. With item 8.4, and we'll renumber this list. Item 8.4 identify proposed community amenities, which are again noted on the exhibit 1 SUP-2108 and the supplement exhibit 2 SUP-2108. And the amenities noted on those 2 documents include the basketball court, micro path, a bocce court, and the tot lot, and there may be others there, and we'll amend that in item 8.4. And with that, I close the hearing and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.